Perfect. Okay, so I got you in the background there. And I will throw
What
this
is it you're
on.
doing with your interview, by the way?
So this is, I just want to start with profiles. I'm talking to Bernie later. And just kind of take a very quick cursory look. The blog is called Speak Your Mind. So they want people profiling, trying to get more interactive, more community-based. They want people profiling the communities. So they've hired, not amateur reporters, I mean, some of us are journalists, some of us are, some of us
Do you have to be a lefty?
It's gotta be wherever you want to be. I haven't declared a stance in 2 years.
Okay.
I abandoned all that completely, and now I'm going to law school. So really, I'm just
Oh, well, look,
I've thrown all ethics out the door.
you and the Star aren't going to get along for a long time.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, for now at least, they're giving me a place to say my things, so I will let them do that much. So you're running now as the incumbent this time around.
Right.
What's changed in the last 4 years?
Well, what's changed is the mood of people. We didn't know 4 years ago that we were going to go through the economic turmoil that we've been part of, the world's been part of in that period of time. So it's affected people in Thornhill as much as it has affected people anywhere else. So they're looking at issues on a different keel. 4 years ago, we were talking about, I would say, very segmented pieces of party platforms. Today we're talking about a broad landscape that affects everybody in Ontario equally. And so people in Thornhill are asking the same question as people in the rest of the province. Do I believe that taxation is at fair levels? Do I believe everybody who wants to work in Ontario is employed and employed well? And do I believe that the government's handling my money well? And my answer to all those questions is no, no, and no. And I'm finding more and more people on the same side as me. That's my cell phone. Don't worry about it.
So if you want to grab it, if you want to take a minute, by all means.
Just see if it's anybody important. Generally, it's not.
Do what you got to do.
Hello. Hello. It's my dog.
There you go.
See? She'll leave it on the voicemail. Go ahead.
So we can view Changebook and we can view the ads and we can find out, why Tim Hudak. Why Peter Shurman?
Well, Peter Shurman is a guy who raised his children in Thornhill, who educated his children in Thornhill, who was part of a ratepayers association, was part of a synagogue executive, all the things that you would expect from a person involved in a community like this. And now I'm older, and my mortgage got paid, and my kids grew up and are in their 30s, and I have always had a public bent in my character. I was in radio for a lot of years, so I guess you'd have to say a bit of a lightning rod or an opinion leader, and I did that partly because I enjoyed being an opinion leader, but partly because I thought it was the best way I could give back to the community that had given me a lot. I didn't come from any great background. My parents were terrific people, but my dad was a war refugee immigrant. They never really had any money. And anything that I've achieved has been a result of my own hard work and the community that I live in. So it was time to give back. I was at an age and in a state of health, and certainly in a state of mind where I could, and the talk radio gave me a springboard. So I got involved, and I'll be very honest, in the first year I wasn't so sure it was a great idea, because it takes a long time to learn the ropes in this business. But in the second year, caught hold of an issue, and that issue really connected the community to me and me to the community, and it was the strike at York University. Nobody else in politics, at any level of government, gave a damn. And how I found that out is I went out there with my executive assistant and to kind of reconnoiter, and we found a meeting of a few hundred students going on in their common area, Very Hall, and as soon as they heard there was a politician in the room, I was literally swept up on stage and handed a microphone, because they just wanted to hear from somebody, anybody who could help them. So I became involved, and I became their voice, and I found out that as an opposition fledgling MPP, you can make enough of a racket to get the attention of a premier of a party with a great big majority, and I did, and I forced Dalton McGuinty through my actions and the public scrutiny that he had to undergo to recall Parliament, to recall the Ontario Legislature in January when it wasn't set to come back for at least another 4 or 6 weeks, specifically to legislate the striking workers back, and in so doing, we saved the year for 50,000 students of York University. And that's when I realized that in opposition or in government, as an MPP, you have buttons you can push, and those buttons are a degree of power which should never go to your head but should be used wisely on behalf of your constituents, and that's what we did. And from there, we went to some other successes and involvements that became the wind in my sails. And to bring it back to your question, why Peter Shurman? Why do you want to do this? Because you find out that what you set out to do, you really can do.
That's got to be the proudest accomplishment, I'm guessing, in the past.
I think there were a number of accomplishments. The proudest accomplishments for any reasonable MPP, and certainly for me, are the ones that nobody ever hears about. They're where you help people just like I described with York University, but one-on-one. Where somebody comes to you, I can, off the top of my head, think of a couple in their 80s. He has cancer. She has heart problems, and she's morbidly overweight. And they get 3 hours of home care a week, and they've cut them back to 1. And they want to stay in their home, but they can't. And so I push the appropriate buttons, and they get a reallocation of enough home care to give them that life that they so desire. I can remember a girl who had an unknown heart defect, who came back from a jog in the winter, and basically went into cardiac arrest. And without going into details, the parents wanted a particular kind of treatment that the health system was denying. When I asked the then health minister if he could intervene, he said, everybody and his brother thinks that effing stuff will help. That's what he said to me, one-on-one. So I called hospitals and got, not the treatment, because I'm no medical specialist, but I got her seen. She ultimately got the treatment that she was looking for, that her parents were looking for, and she improved. Those kinds of things are the most amazing achievements. But if you're looking for the ones that are very public, when I went to the legislature and said this business of Israeli apartheid week on our campuses has got to stop. I don't mind people discussing their points of view, but Israeli apartheid is a presumptive type of phrase that has no place in Ontario's halls of learning. And free discussion does, but not when you start on a non-level playing field like that. I convinced the entire legislature to vote for that. We got unanimity, and that resolution passed, so that was a really proud moment. And another couple of proud moments, I teamed up with an NDP MPP and a Liberal MPP, and together we passed the Italian Heritage Month legislation that creates Italian Heritage Month every June in Ontario. And remember, Italians are 15% of my riding, and they are 10% of all Ontario. Huge community, the first non-English speaking community to emigrate to Canada in any large numbers. I also presented 2 pieces of legislation that would have guaranteed tax relief to seniors, and they were that legislation was fantastic, at no cost to anybody, not to the government, and shot down by the McGuinty Liberals because they didn't want any credit going to an opposition MPP for a good piece of legislation. Those are some of the things that come to mind when you ask what I accomplished. But I have to say, by far, the one-on-one encounters, which went on for the entire 4 years and will for the next 4 years, are the ones that you take home.
So, you came in 07 with a fairly high profile as a radio host. This time you're running against a candidate with an incredibly high profile in the riding. So how do you plan on keeping yours?
Well, that's your assumption, not mine. I don't think that my opponent has any kind of high profile at all. He's reasonably well known in the Jewish community. Nobody outside the Jewish community knows who he is. He got 1 endorsement from a former chief of police to, I don't know, 15 or 20 that I've got from all kinds of people everywhere. I think that my profile is a result of what I've done in this riding for the last 4 years. My opponent, his profile is predicated on the fact that he's a legend in his own mind.
Fair enough. How do we stop, and you said 15% town community, so it is a little bit diverse, but there is obviously one strong predominant community that Thornhill is sort of known for. And you discussed some of the issues that play. Is there a concern, or how do we stop this campaign from being about one specific issue, one specific community? Because number one, do you feel there's a danger of that happening?
No. This is not a campaign that pertains to any particular community. It is a campaign that pertains to every community. It's true that we have a couple of predominant communities in Thornhill. Jewish Thornhillers are about 36% of the riding, and Italian Thornhillers are about 15% of the riding. And then you got about 100 other ethnicities and as many languages. And they all have concerns. But in this election, the concerns are common. Somebody asked me recently, what are the two biggest concerns that you're getting at the doors? And they're unique to the riding. The first one is transit and gridlock. We heard recently that a study across North America was demonstrative of the fact that the GTA has the longest commute times, longest average commute times anywhere in North America. Longer than LA. It's amazing. Longer than Chicago, longer than New York, at 33 minutes. Thornhillers should be so lucky as to have 33-minute commutes. It's not unusual to hear people saying it takes me an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours each way. This impacts quality of life. It impacts people's ability to be with their families. It impacts dad or mom's ability to sit down and do homework with son or daughter. These are the things that families have about 10 or 15 years to do, no more. I know that because I'm a guy who brought up a couple of kids, and if I could go back to any part of my life, it'd be those 10 or 15 years, but we all can't. So we try to make the most of them while they're happening. That's what gridlock is about for Thornhill. And that's why our party has put such an emphasis on $35 billion infrastructure allowance that's focused on transit and the automobile as well over the course of our first 4-year mandate. And I am on record as being highly in favor of and fighting hard for the Yonge Street subway extension north from Finch to Highway 7. And that's something that I want to bring home in the vernacular. If it's the last thing I do, I can tell you that there is a force of will that I haven't seen before on the regional, the municipal, and even the federal government levels, as well as with me at the provincial level, and it's something I want to do. The other aspect that we're seeing at the doors a lot, which makes Thornhill just the same as every other community, is economics. It's, you know, I can't keep getting hydro bills that are a surprise every month. People say, well, you know, Thornhill, why are you worried about it? Thornhill's a rich community, over $100,000 average household income. The fact of the matter is, Thornhill has its share of impoverished people as well. So poverty is not about the inner city any more or any less than it is for Thornhill. If you're homeless, or you're on a 10-year wait list for public housing, and you happen to live in Thornhill, the situation isn't any better than if you happen to live down in Trinity Spadina. And so people here are very aware of that. They're very aware of their friends who don't have jobs, and they're very aware that their jobs may be tenuous given what's going on in the States and the rest of the world, and the fact that the U.S. is our largest client. So these are the things that I'm hearing about, and these are the things that we're addressing.
To end it a little lighter, tell us something about Peter Shurman that we aren't going to find in any of the campaign literature on the site.
He's got a part of him that's still a kid. Because I think that there's such a thing as being too mature. I'm very mature and very adult and very concerned and very serious about the issues of the day that affect people. But I like having fun. I know how to have fun. I like getting away to my cottage. I like flying my airplane, although I had to sell my last airplane because who had time in this job? But those kinds of things. I like scuba diving. I like playing golf. I didn't play any this summer because we had a campaign going on, but I love it. So those are the things that I enjoy. I love the successes of my boys. They're still boys to me, 33 and 36. I love the fact that one of them came home. Neither of them at the last campaign period lived in Ontario, and one of them didn't even live in Canada. The one that didn't live in Canada is back in Toronto, and the one that lives in Canada, in BC, which is far away, will be visiting in the next couple of weeks. So these are some things about Peter Shurman that matter on a day-to-day basis. And of course, I love my wife of 41 years, Carol.
Excellent. Perfect. Thanks very much. And the office is next to Snowden as a tribute to the homeland, or that was, well, I'm guessing, no accident.
I'm going to tell you something. I find it very difficult not to run next